John Strand is a model and actor who went to the U.S. Capitol on January 6th to serve as a bodyguard for Dr. Simone Gold of America's Frontline Doctors. And like many J6ers, John had served time for going to the Capitol that day, and he was released earlier from prison just today at the order of a federal judge. They both join me right now, along with Steve Baker, Blaze Media investigative reporter, who was also present on January 6th and has helped to write about their story. So, John, can you just describe what it was like today when you walked out of prison this morning?
It was amazing. I was so happy to see Dr. Gold and my team ready to greet me and take me out of a very painful, miserable place. And I learned a lot. God did a lot of great things, but it was terrible. So I was glad to get out of there. That's for sure.
And Dr. Gold, what was it like for you to be on the other side awaiting him?
Right. There's so much injustice from a legal perspective. We didn't know if he would be released. As you know, the Supreme Court ruled on Fisher on June 28th, but you still had to await the judges, saying release. And we got that 8 days ago, and here we are.
John, obviously, I've already had the opportunity to welcome you back to real life. Let's talk a little bit about that. We don't need to tell the stories about January 6th. That's been seen ad nauseum. But you lived through what is the ultimate weaponization of the federal government against you as a citizen of the United States. Give me a little bit more idea what it was like to be there.
Again, I'll use the word miserable. You have a heightened sense of pain and of stress and of angst about everything. So the way I described it was my time in prison was actually split between two facilities. The first half in Miami, where I was actually viciously abused in an isolation environment for about 4 straight months, which was essentially like being waterboarded. And when I was released from there and transferred to another location where it was a little less oppressive, it felt like I was trying to breathe the oxygen of freedom through a straw from underneath a swamp. So,
Blaze correspondent Joe Hanneman has covered your story extensively, in fact, going back a couple of years.
Yes.
And one of the things that I think first brought Dr. Gold and I into acquaintance was the fact that you were being held in solitary confinement, which is essentially torture.
Yeah.
We'll start there. But what she was most concerned about was that we needed to get this message out, but there was a problem with getting this message out.
Yes, there was.
If we get this message out, they tend to punish you more. Is that correct?
Make it worse. That's exactly what happened to me. They fabricated a whole series of ridiculous circumstances to put me in isolation for a couple of weeks, basically to say, watch out. We'll crush you if you look sideways. And I was actually just looking to follow all their rules. They didn't even give me the rule book when I walked in the door, which is a BOP policy violation. So they were already off on the wrong trail. But they pulled me out for a couple days. And then a story that I had nothing to do with went viral on media. Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene reported on me being tortured and abused. And they put me in this interrogation room and grilled me about this like I had something to do with it, like a scene out of a movie, and then threw me back in and I wasn't seen again for 3.5 months.
And this has been true of defendants, prisoners who have reported on black mold growing in their cells. The water is tainted. The food is spoiled and rotten. And just releasing that information through their attorneys or through their family has caused them to be punished further and thrown into solitary confinement. And that's what you're describing here right now.
Absolutely. The government hates accountability, and they'll bite you for it.
How does a human who is supposed to have community, to be around others, to go through what you did for solitary confinement for 4 months, how did you mentally make it through that time?
I prayed a lot. I'm a man of faith, and my relationship with God is the only reason I even started on this journey, and it's certainly what's kept me strong through it. But I didn't feel strong in isolation. I felt like hell. I was in hell. That was definitely hell on earth. It's the closest I ever want to get to hell. But God is everywhere, even in hell. And he promised me that before I went in, and when I was there, I was able to kind of meet God in a way I never have before. And I already understood this cerebrally, but I put it into practice, and he kind of led me through a process of proving to myself what my faith is about and what enduring pain and suffering and finding purpose in it, and understanding that joy doesn't mean that everything's great or that you feel great. You might feel like hell, and I did, but joy still exists, and it's something we have to choose and strive towards, and God leads us through that, and he led me out to the other side.
For both of you, what is the most difficult part about this entire journey? Dr. Gold?
For me, I mean, I weep for our nation. I'm a doctor and a lawyer, and I've watched the corruption of both of my professions. It's incredible, the lies from the HHS and the CDC and NIH and the FDA, tremendous lies. And then I watched the DOJ lie and the FBI lie and the Bureau of Prison lie. And so I'm watching the collapse of my nation, and it's tragic.
I almost want to kind of say the same thing, actually, that the abuse that they're putting January 6 patriots through is unspeakable, actually. It's so egregious. It's so shameful. But what torments me is that so many people who are quote unquote on the right side or the good side still don't know. They don't know what's really happening. They don't know how easily they're manipulated and fooled by systems. And they're not fully connected to a source of truth that's immovable. Because I'm subjected to all those things too, but I never let go of the source. And so that the lies are what they destroy everything.
And I think that for all of us sitting here, the paths that we have taken, we love America and what it stood for and what we thought it was when we were growing up. How do you look at your country now after what you have gone through in your time in prison?
So I am energized. I am doubled. We are not living in China yet. We are not. We can still speak out. We can still fight back. There are more people that feel patriotic love for our country, our inalienable rights, and we still have an opportunity to push back. John is out of prison. If he had been in China, he wouldn't be out of prison. So the answer is you got to keep pushing back, keep pushing hard. You've got to vote. You got to vote in November. Elections matter.
Also, I will say, so the subtitle of my book, which is called Patriot Plea, is my J6 journey as a political prisoner in the divided states of America. And of course, I say that very intentionally, and I describe what I mean by that in the book. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and hoping you get a different result. And I think we have a little bit of insanity on both sides of the political spectrum, and we need to kind of have a reset to understand what's missing, what's off kilter, so that we can actually hit the target we're aiming for.
And I understand you wrote that while in prison.
Yes, I did.
So you were using your time very effectively then. You guys, it's incredible to just sit here and listen to your story and just to say, oh, there's still hope. There's the fact that there is positivity coming out of you, that you're a man of faith. Like, that is encouraging to me to say, this is something that we can get through and come through to the other side. So when I look at you guys, I just want to say, like, this is a hopeful conversation. And do you feel that way today, that this is the day that you've been waiting for and praying for so long?
100%. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
You know, we have a much longer, more extensive interview coming out within a couple of days that we were able to conduct today with you right after your release. And then, of course, we've got our story coming out that I'm working on with Joe Hanneman. But you went through the fire. As you said, you went through the hell. Do you have any regrets for choosing the path? Because you did not have to choose this path. You went up against a DC jury, a no-win scenario, and you chose that instead of a plea deal. And most regrets?
No, never. Not for one single second. For 3+ years. And in my case, the government gave me a golden parachute. They were holding a 20-year felony, $500,000 of fines over my head, and they said, if you bend the knee to the government, we'll give you a single misdemeanor. I could have gone home with a slap on the wrist 2 years ago and been living my life. But the plea deal was a lie, and it wasn't just a lie about me. It was a lie about a whole swath of American citizens, and it was a tool of the devil, to be frank. And I said, I'll have no part of that, and I refused.
Americans on the left and the right need to understand that you two did not commit any crimes that day.
No, we were victimized by a government that committed egregious crimes against their citizens on January 6th.
There's a half of this country that wants you waterboarded in Guantanamo Bay for the rest of your life simply because you were exercising your First Amendment privileges. In fact, Dr. Gold, she was scheduled to speak on the Capitol grounds that day at a legally licensed, permitted event. Most people don't even know that those were happening that day, and you were her bodyguard, and that's how you ended up there.
Exactly, but that half of the country that wants us waterboarded or tortured or whatever, what we said earlier was that the problem are the lies, right? Those people have been lied to. They've been lied to so much that they have lost touch with what's true at all. So the lies become the only truth they can hear. And according to the story that they've heard for ad nauseum for 3+ years, would equate to, seems like those people should be in prison if they led a premeditated insurrection to try to take down the government, which is the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
We just want to emphasize, of course, we were not violent. Of course, we were only walking through, the tourist ropes and being peaceful and all that. And people who are hearing our voice now need to understand that our American government is putting people into prison who are absolutely not peaceful, who are, speaking up for free speech, et cetera. So yes, it's an important point.
And meanwhile, you can see, like literally today and every other day, pretty much, that there are violent actions taking place on other protests that are just sort of, put that in a box and won't touch that.
So what's next for you, John?
The book is next. I'm very excited about Patriot Plea. You can get that at johnstrand.com. I don't know when it's coming out, but as soon as humanly possible, I would like to see it out before the election. My mission right now is to really advocate for the J6 hostages. Praise God that I'm free and out, but many of them are still being tortured and abused, and it's absolutely shameful. It's a stain on this country. And I am passionate about bringing that to the American people's attention, and also advocating for President Trump, of course, our true president, who is the strongest leader and strongest potential we have to rescue these hostages, and also to rescue the entire country from the control of the left.